Hey guys, welcome to Finally Clicked, the podcast where we discuss business, leadership, and personal development. My name is Margaret Smith, and I'm the Director of Operations for Pickett Street Properties, a real estate team out of Bothell, Washington. And I'll be here every week with our owner and team leader, Jesse D. Moore. We'll be digging into concepts and ideas that have helped us both personally and professionally, and you'll also get a chance to hear from local and national experts that we know provide massive value to get to the point where it all finally clicks. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Finally Clicked with Margaret Smith. I am going solo this week. Jesse D. Moore is now in Prague to celebrate a wedding. So yeah, you get me, Mo. Who knows what the heck is going to come out of my mouth, and I have nobody to translate. So just be prepared. If you hear some words that don't go well together, or maybe I use a word incorrectly, don't be surprised. But I'm really excited for today's episode. I chose to interview Hallie Warner, who wrote the book The Founder and the Force Multiplier with her entrepreneur, Adam Hergenrother. And so her official title is Chief of Staff at Adam Hergenrother Companies. You can find her on Facebook. And they decided to co-author this book because they are also quite passionate about this strategic partnership, and they've gotten tons of questions over the years. Hallie, come October, she will now have been working with Adam for 9 years. So she's a wealth of information. And for those of you that don't yet have an executive assistant or director of operations or chief of staff or any of the 64 different titles you may choose to call us, this is a really good chance to get kind of a peek behind the curtain and look inside someone's brain before you start interviewing. Or if you already have someone in an operations role with you and you're looking to maybe take the next step and take it a step further, like Hallie and Adam have, this is going to be a great interview for you guys to listen to. So I met Hallie about 5.5 years ago, I believe, at something called Coaching Skills Camp, which is a conference put on by Keller Williams where you learn some of the basics around the idea of coaching. And I knew immediately that Hallie was someone I wanted to get to know. And if you know anything about me and networking, it's that I like to make it happen. And when I go to events, I'm very strategic about meeting people with intention, and I'm really good at following up. And I also believe that when you network, opportunities come from behind doors that you just wouldn't even imagine. So it's been really good getting to know Hallie. She's attended one of my retreats, the Pacific Northwest Operations Retreat. And I just really admire the business that she and Adam have built together and the partnership that they've created. So we're going to chat with Hallie about the Founder and the Force Multiplier, and I will catch you on the flip side to see what you guys think. All right, guys, super excited to have Hallie Warner here today to chat with us a little bit about her book, The Founder and the Force Multiplier. Thank you for joining me, Hallie.
Thank you so much, Margaret. I'm excited to be on your podcast.
Oh, good. And it's just me this week. So you're going to help me through this first episode on my own here. Thankfully, I'm not just talking to an empty room.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this conversation. And I was just chatting with Hallie for a minute before we got started. And I think it's going to be a really good conversation with all the different topics that you bring up in the book with Adam, and all the different things that you and I have experienced over our time in the industry in real estate. I have no doubt we'll have plenty to talk about. So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about your journey and how you got to work with Adam Hergenrother?
Okay, sure. Yeah, bringing me back a few years here. So I've worked with Adam for almost 9 years. It'll be 9 years in October.
Okay.
So prior to that, for about 1.5 years, right out of college, I was, a marketing kind of general public relations assistant at a nonprofit. So I really entered the assistant world right away. And then 1.5 years after that, I was an executive assistant at a really large public high school, rural high school, but it was big. So I did that for 1.5 years. I was the EA to the principal. And then that was my first 3 years of career experience. And then I applied for a job on Craigslist as a listing assistant on Adam's team. I didn't even know at the time that he was the OP of our market center. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, he had a team and he was growing his team, and they were looking for kind of their next hire, their next piece of leverage, so that his listing assistant could move into the EA position. I would take over as listing assistant. He was carrying probably like 100 listings at a time at that point because he was still in production. So I joined the team, started learning everything I could about real estate, learning how to go to the town offices and pull title and take photos and do all that sort of thing for about 3 months, 2.5, 3 months. And then Adam pulled me and our listing assistant / EA into the office and said, I think you guys are in the wrong position. I think you guys need to switch. I was incredibly relieved because I was watching what she was starting to learn and do. And I was like, oh my God, I want to get in on that. Yeah. And she was relieved because she wanted no part of that world and really enjoyed just working with her clients and working on marketing, which I did not enjoy as much. So
wow. So Adam saw that right off the bat, like within
it. I don't remember what it was, if there was any particular moment, but he noticed that pretty quickly. And then 3 months into working there, I went to my first family reunion, and the rest is history. I was like, this is what I'm meant to do. I didn't know that being an EA was an actual career. Yeah. I watched people up on stage and I was like, oh my God, they are killing it. They own their roles. And I was like, okay, it's an actual career. Let's see what I can do with this. So,
okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So to give people some context, because number one, Jesse's like the king of context, and he's usually in charge of that. But number two, it's always surprising to me how many people don't know about you guys, because you're one of the first companies that I learned about coming to one of the conferences, and I guess maybe I pay attention to that stuff too. But you guys just had an awesome year, and you're number 4 in the United States, right? For
yes.
Is it unit count?
Yes, on transactions. Yep.
Okay, and then describe, like, I know you guys have expansion locations and then other companies that Adam runs. Yes. So kind of speak a little bit to that, how big of a real estate business and other companies that he has built. Yeah.
Yeah, so he is a OP of our market center here in Vermont. It's the only market center. Our state is not huge, so he owns the whole state. And we're opening some other like mega agent offices. We're kind of calling them clubhouses, and kind of really kind of pioneering a slightly different model there. In addition to that, he's got Hergenrother Realty Group, which is the number 4 team. We have about 15 other locations. We just are launching 2 more in the next couple of months. They just got announced internally. They have not been externally announced yet. 15 teams there. He owns co-owns BlackRock Construction with his brother, and that is primarily construction management and development company. And then Adam Hergenrother Training is our coaching and training company. And that's really, I spend the majority of my time kind of on all of those businesses, and a lot of time on the coaching and training, and really just on Adam and his brand, and kind of walking alongside him in terms of leadership, depending on what kind of project we're working on at the moment. I don't really consider that I work in real estate. I haven't really for several years, but it's kind of the broader world that everything exists in right now.
Okay. At what point did you step out of more of the real estate stuff and really start becoming the person that you are now, the role that you have now?
Yeah. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, so quite a while now.
Yeah, as soon as we launched our first expansion team, which was in 2011, I launched that first team with Adam. We probably did the first 4 or 5 together. And then at that point, it's too much for us. So we hired a director of ops, and that person really started taking over kind of the real estate team and the expansion operations. And I was really out of real estate at that point.
Okay. And then are you the only person that works on all those businesses with him, or does he have other staff members that help with all those different companies? Yeah.
We have a director of marketing, and we have Amy, who's our executive assistant. So we work on all of the companies, and then each company has its own staffing. Okay.
So describe a little bit about what your day or your week is like.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it's kind of different every week, but that's not entirely true. Mondays, as we were chatting about briefly, are just all company meetings. I do all of my 411s. I have my 411 with Adam on Mondays. And then we check in with each company, kind of just to set the tone for the week and check in with our leadership teams. And that's really my Monday. I don't really do much else except sit in meetings. And then really the rest of the week, it depends on what project we're working on. A lot of it is working with our director of marketing on whatever initiatives she has. I am often doing KPAs and interviewing for more of our leadership positions and or new positions for future companies. So a lot of just talent meetings. And then a lot of content creation, jumping in on things like this podcast. I've got an interview. I'm being interviewed for this other CEO thing, kind of private thing on Friday. Working on our book, working on future books, that kind of thing.
Okay. So how did writing this book, The Founder and the Force Multiplier, come up? Have you wanted to write for a long time, or is this something that you just developed an interest in since you started working with Adam?
Yeah, it kind of was like, it's so interesting working, I think, in general in the industry that we work in, because there's so much opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's really whatever you make of it. And then I feel extra privileged to have partnered with Adam, because it's really like the world is so large that I can do whatever I want. I've always wanted to write a book since I was like 5. I used to write them for like my sister for Christmas and my parents for, their birthdays, whatever. I was an English major. So writing and reading and all of that is kind of like part of who I am. So when Adam was like, I want to write a book at some point, I'm like, fantastic, let's do this. And then it was just a matter of deciding what the first book was. This was not our original idea.
Okay.
We were going to do something else. And then I was like, I don't know if it was he or I, we kind of both had this conversation, like, this is a conversation that I'm a part of right now. And there's a lot of noise in that world, and we have a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
So why don't we put our message out there right now where it's going to make the biggest impact?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of my first questions, was how did you guys decide that this was something you were going to write about? And you've kind of answered it there. There's been a lot of noise around what is this position all about, all the different titles that you can have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So has this always been something that you wanted to kind of dig more into, or is this a way, I think you and I have talked before about how this is such an awesome resource to be able to give to people, so that rather than saying, hey, can I pick your brain for an hour on Thursday, you can say like, hey, why don't you go read this book? And then see if you have any questions. I literally said that to someone last week. I said, hey, read this book and then come back to me if you have any follow-up questions, because I think it's resources like this that have been lacking that really help to answer a lot of the basic questions that people have.
I think so too. And in particular I actually, interestingly enough, because I'm in that assistant world, you would think I would recommend it to assistants all the time. I'm actually recommending it to the founders and the entrepreneurs all the time who want to meet with me or Adam, or want to hire me to, they want to go, can you hire a Hallie for me? And I'm like, well, no, I can't. Well, I mean, yes, I could, but I don't really necessarily have the time for that at the moment. And so I just say, well, who are you even looking for? Why don't you go read this book? And figure out who it is that you need, because a lot of entrepreneurs in the beginning think that they immediately want to go hire a chief of staff. Yeah. And I often say to them, where are you at in your business? Is that really the leverage that you need? Mm-hmm. Is it really maybe just a personal assistant, or do you need an operations manager? Who is it that you're actually looking? What need are you trying to fulfill? Mm-hmm. I think people think that the chief of staff title is really kind of just a sexy title. And maybe don't fully understand what it is. And I've talked to a couple people about this that, and I don't want this to sound arrogant, because that's not the way I mean it, but a lot of people can't handle me. Yeah. So, or a lot of people couldn't handle a chief of staff that they think that they want. Yeah. Or a director of operations that they think that they want. I totally get what you mean. Jesse and I've had that conversation before, on the podcast actually, where I've said, I actually don't think many people would like me, because not many people actually want someone who has an opinion or who's going to argue. Or like one of my favorite parts in your book, which I mentioned before in my review, is when he says, Hallie pisses me off daily. Because I totally piss Jesse off daily. And it goes both ways. It's like if a lot of people think they want someone like you. And then when someone like that comes into their business, they're like, actually, I just wanted someone who was going to do this, this, and this. And so. And just do what I told them to do. And hand it back to me. No, like that's not you. That's not me. Yeah. So yeah, I do give that, or recommend that a lot of entrepreneurs read that book, because this is the thing that a recent example that really bothered me, and I had to let it go. But some entrepreneur, he just started a new business, said, can I sit down? Can I take you to coffee, lunch, whatever, and talk about how I can hire a strategic partner just like you? I'm thinking that they can start off part-time and be virtual. And I'm like, okay, that is not an executive strategic partner in any way, shape, or form like what I do or what you do. and it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you get a part-time, strategic partner?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's just another example of that we probably run across almost on the daily. It seems like just how vague it can be, and not even just the position. I think maybe as a someone who's new to business or whatever it is that they're developing, just trying to figure out which way to go first. And I think oftentimes they just think like assistant, and maybe this is the new title for assistant, strategic partner. So how did you guys go about deciding an outline for your book and how to even begin to describe something like that?
Yeah, so writing the book it's an interesting process in general. It's not as difficult as you would think it is to write a book. I mean, the publishing process is a little bit lengthy, and of course, if you want to actually get published rather than be self-published, that's a whole different animal. But actually writing it's not the most difficult thing in the world. One is just having that outline and knowing what it is that you want to write. We just kind of did it based off of kind of the contents that you see in the finished product. And then the beauty of writing a blog that Adam's written for many years is that we were able to actually just pull a lot of the content from the blog and from the blog that I had. And it was a lot of just kind of reformatting, reorganizing, making it all kind of flow together. But I mean, I'm so glad we've been doing a blog for, I think it was like 2 or 3 years, because it made the writing of the book so much easier.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I think, and that makes so much sense because both of you have been talking about the topic for a while now. So then just deciding what else to add to that and putting it in a particular flow is really what you had to do. Okay.
Yeah. And just, creating some sort of consistent theme around it and message and packaging it all together.
Has it made you want to start other books that you've been thinking about?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
More so like that Adam and I have been thinking about. We have a couple ideas for children's books that we'd like to write. And I feel like it's a really good time for several reasons. One, his children are of that age that would be great to write a kid's book. Yeah. And it coincides with his foundation, which we're gearing up to launch probably in the next year, a little bit more formally. He does a lot of work informally, but we really want to kick off the foundation at some point, and writing a book there would be great. And there are a lot of other books that he's got in mind that I'm sure we will work on in the next couple of years.
Yeah. What ended up being the hardest part about it now that you've been through it once?
Oh gosh. The hardest part was the formatting.
Formatting.
It was not in the writing. It really wasn't. The hardest part was, and I didn't even have to do the formatting. I just knew it was a challenging process. Formatting and just really figuring out how to publish a book. Yeah. Was the most difficult process. We do know how to do it now. Although I'm relearning currently because we're going to relaunch it on Amazon through Amazon Publishing. Okay. I think it's called Kindle Direct Publishing. So that's something I'm going to have to figure out. And that's my project for this week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Had you guys struggled with the title at all? Because I love the title and I think it makes total sense.
It might have been like the third title I had, but no, not really. Yeah. I don't think that was I kind of knew we were going to use Force Multiplier. That was the whole kind of catalyst for the book. And then I am a huge fan of alliteration. So I needed to have that in there.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Okay. I highlighted just a couple parts that I wanted to bring up so that people have an example of what's in the book if they haven't read it yet. So I think it was this part. When you talk about creating a strategic partnership, Adam mentioned in here 5 key things to do to create a strategic partnership with your executive assistant. And it was give up control, meet and communicate regularly, set clear expectations, goals, and wins, build trust, and invite them into the inner circle. Mm-hmm. And so many, I think a lot of the questions I get that I'm sure you've had too is, how do you get someone to give up control? And I wondered if you had how that went for you with Adam in the beginning, what helped you to help him give up control.
Yeah, I don't remember the specifics, but I just know I think what kind of just worked and what happened, and it doesn't happen overnight. It took 6 months or so, maybe a year, before it was just like he knew 100% that if he handed something off to me, it was going to get done.
Yeah.
Never have to think about it ever again. I would say it was probably like 6 months. But I would say that a lot of it was from me taking like extreme ownership and extreme initiative on everything. I was not content to sit around and wait for things to be handed to me or to be asked. I was learning. I was reading everything I could get my hands on about real estate, about him, just like studying him and listening to how he did things, reading everything I could about real estate, taking every free class, webinar, going to the Market Center classes. Like I just learned any and everything I could, so that he felt really comfortable and confident giving up that control to me. I just was trying to make myself as valuable as possible that way. Email and calendar always take a little bit longer to give up. That was probably like 6 months, but I think it's just making sure you go way above and beyond and showing that you can handle it, and just being confident that you really can handle whatever comes your way, and you'll figure it out. Maybe you won't figure it out in 5 minutes, but you will figure it out. And not being hesitant sometimes gives them that much more confidence to hand things off and to give up control. And there's little tips and tricks and things you can do, like, can I handle this for you and just kind of test it out for the next week and let me see how that goes. And then you just make sure you kick ass at that, and then they're never gonna want it back. Yeah. Once you show that you can do it.
Yeah. Have you always been like that? Because I do think that is probably one of the key things that a leader or an executive can look for when they're looking for an assistant. Is that ability, like for someone to be able to, who takes that initiative and goes after it like that, it's rare. Is that something that you have always done in any job that you had, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just, I like to be the best, or at least my version of the best. Right. Yeah. So, it's just really important. I'm a type A. It's just really important for me to be a high achiever and to show up and perform that way. So, yes.
Yeah. Do you think was that evident in your interview with him? Like, was he able to tell that from your past experiences?
I really don't know. We didn't know Recruit Select or career visioning at that point. Like, I didn't take an ABA or a KPA.
Yeah. And I saw you came from Craigslist, which just made me laugh because I hardly ever even look on Craigslist anymore.
Yeah.
For people.
It worked in Vermont 9 years ago.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I know that I showed up. He only met me for like 15 minutes probably before I was hired. It was only 2 interviews. We live in Vermont and people are pretty casual. I showed up in a black business suit and, my purple heels and, whatever. I'm not saying looks have anything to do with it, but I am saying like in the sea of Vermont, I probably stood out.
Yeah.
So, there was that, and I do not remember the interview at all. I just remember where I was sitting.
Yeah.
That was it. And what I was wearing.
I'm sure you showed your characteristics in the first couple weeks because I think that so. In particular is what I would love to help other entrepreneurs, I guess, kind of identify when they're in an interview, because I think that specifically somebody who will take the initiative, wants to be the best, wants to go after it, is kind of what you need to identify in people when you're interviewing. And while I know it can be hard to identify, I think that the people that have that trajectory, it will show up on their resume. It will show up in how they talk. I think that's super key to finding someone who's going to be an A+ player for you. Yeah,
I think so too. And for the people who do kind of pay attention to the KPA, some of the characteristics that I specifically look for, really in any of the leadership positions that we hire, and what I do want people to hear is that your director of ops and your assistant need to be leaders. So when we're looking for leadership positions, I'm always looking for pretty like mid to high assertiveness.
Yeah.
In our company, you've got to have super high intensity and you have to have super high responsiveness. And I'm okay with being wherever on sociability. I'm blanking on some of the other ones because some of them I don't even pay attention to. I'm looking for high assertive, high intensity, mid assertive, high intensity, and high responsiveness. They will not survive in our company when they're working closely with myself and Adam or any of those leadership positions if they don't have those characteristics and behaviors.
That makes sense. Yeah. For anybody that's listening that doesn't know what the KPA is, it's the Keller Personality Assessment, and it's kind of like the DISC on steroids, is how I communicate that to people that aren't familiar with it. But yeah, I love that you said that. I found that people that show up high on the vocabulary section too, for some reason, tend to perform more or better or higher in person, I guess. I don't know what that connection is there, but we've looked at that and responsiveness too.
Ability to take ideas and implement them.
Yeah.
Synthesize and implement quickly.
Yeah.
Super important.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. That's awesome. That is helpful. Let's see, there was one other section that I wanted to bring up. And you just brought it up. You talked about hiring with the director of operations and any operations position in general, looking for leaders. And so in one of the titles one of the chapters, you talked about leading without a title. And I think that's the thing that I've probably learned after I learned my general position in the beginning, like that first year. Then I learned, you do have to be a leader. You have to be a leader to help your leader lead. And sometimes you have to lead up. And so I'm wondering, when did that start for you? Or when was that something that you've always wanted to do, that you were hoping to do within his company when you first started?
Yeah, good question.
Sorry, that's like 3 questions in one.
Well, I always try to think about what it was like when I first started working with Adam, because our relationship is just so, natural and sometimes he's leading, sometimes I'm leading. And so kind of, more back to the beginning, but I do think some of it, and this is a horrible answer because it's a lot of it is my behavior. It is very behaviorally driven. I've always been in leadership positions in my, high school, college, my family, some of it is just behavioral. So it was very natural for me to take initiative, take charge of our team, but also of Adam. So I don't know if that's, when you're looking to hire somebody, you need to just make sure you're really looking at that behavior. You're looking at the track record. Where have they shown up in leadership positions, formally or informally? I don't know if it was because I wasn't EA previously, and I did have a little bit of that experience where, I was the kind of the keeper of the office, right? I had all the information. I was, 23 years old and basically telling everybody what to do at that organization. But I never thought the EA position was like a lesser position. In my opinion, if anything, you are one of the most powerful people in the company. So I just kind of approached every situation from that, humbly, of course, but always from that sort of, I'm here to serve the company and to serve the leader, and I'm a leader too.
Yeah. As you were talking, I'm wondering, I know when I was thinking about talking to you, I was thinking this is a unique opportunity for people to kind of get inside your brain and see how you operate within your position. And I know something that I think about often when I'm trying to teach other people how to work better with their entrepreneur. It's paying attention to all the little things, like learning how Adam operates so that how to complement that, I guess. Yeah. And I'm wondering if that is something that's also natural to you, that you just you pay attention to that stuff. Even as simple as that, some people don't even know when to talk in a meeting, right? Or when's the appropriate time to speak up. And I'm wondering if that was something that took you some time to get used to as well when working with him, or if that is something that just comes with you innately.
I am making it sound like way easier than it really was, because as I'm saying all of that, I'm an extreme introvert and was incredibly shy for the majority of my life and barely spoke up until when I was my early 20s. Yeah. So there's that side of me too that is always afraid of, making a mistake and should I speak up and should I not? In the beginning, working with Adam, it did take, I knew internally, what needed to be done and what needed to happen. So was I always super confident in saying it? That took a little bit of time. I really totally forgot what you were asking.
No, that's okay. No, it's all right. You answered part of it totally. The part that I was thinking about was, I think one of the things I've noticed I talk to a lot of newer admin about is even as simple as how to read someone. And I think there are some people that are better at it than others. And so for those that aren't, it doesn't mean you can't do it. But I've literally sat in a meeting and I've thought, oh gosh, how interesting would it be for me to like record what's going on in my head right now? Because I can say, okay, I'm looking at Jesse. I know what he's thinking about right now is that person's talking about this project. And I can see that he's anxious because we haven't had lunch yet and it's 1:00. And like all these things are going on in my head. So that helped me from the very beginning to learn real quickly, like how to participate in meetings like that, or what would be beneficial for me to maybe take notes on or go take action on right after this. And I'm wondering if that is something that's natural and innate to who you are, or if it took some time as well to kind of learn how Adam operates in order to best complement what he needs and what the company needs.
That's actually a good question, and probably something that I need to talk to you about more and learn from you on, is that like reading people, I am not good at that at all.
Oh, really? I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, no, reading, I mean, like empathy, emotional intelligence, not super high on emotional intelligence at all. That is something I have to work very diligently at, to pay attention to how are the people feeling, thinking, what's their energy like. All those things that you just mentioned that you would do in a meeting would not even occur to me to be paying attention to. I have an agenda, I have a mission, I am going to go get it done, and I'm not paying attention to often.
Yeah.
Really be conscious about it, to pay attention to what other people are doing. I can be a bit of a bulldozer. I have got to like the blinders on.
Yeah.
And I have to be very conscious about making sure I take out time and going around the office and talking to people, or making sure to remember that they're human and to ask about their weekend, or things like that. So it does not come naturally to me, and it's something I need to continue to work on.
Okay. I actually love that because it shows that, so that's probably one of the biggest differences between you and I think we've talked about this before, but I love that because you've had a very successful and are having a successful career with Adam and all the companies that you're helping to run and build. And I think sometimes people get stuck on, if they know a chief of staff or a director of operations or any of the titles of people that they admire, they think I have to be exactly like that person. And it's just not true. There are different personality styles that work really well. And it's just like you're trying to adapt like that. I've definitely had places where I've had to adapt as well. So I actually love that you brought that up. I think that's really good for people to know and take note of, that when they're interviewing and looking for someone, you don't need someone that is just one way. You need that the thing that you talked about, the drive earlier, that I think is really ultimately the number one factor, probably.
Yeah, and then it just comes in different flavors, right?
Yeah.
And I have to work really hard at the people side of things. I really do. So.
Yeah. Is there, what's helped you the most with that? Is there a book or something that you've done that has been helpful? And
so fierce conversations helped. Crucial conversations helped.
Oh yeah. Okay.
More so in just, being able to approach those different conversations. And more than, I actually haven't even read a book or anything about it. More than anything, I try to be very aware of it, and put things into my schedule, like to make sure I go chat with people, or, we probably should send some sort of vision email or update email to our coaching clients or whatever. I'm always trying to think of like a system to help me be better at that.
Yeah.
And then to a certain degree, I've just been okay with that. That's not my strength. And we're going to surround ourselves with people who are better at that. Amy is much more in tune with other people, and just can sense their energy better than I can, and has a higher emotional intelligence, which is fantastic because she has more interaction with people. The majority of our leadership team members are of the high D personality with like no S and not that much I. So that works out well for us. And it's just who we've kind of hired over the years. That doesn't mean everybody's like that, but the people that I interact with most are.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I had a couple other questions written down. One of them was, I think I know more about your story just because I've, always asked you questions and pursued talking to you about it. But for people that don't know you as much, what has been one of the biggest struggles for you in the 9 years that you've worked with Adam, that you overcame, that might be something that people would be interested in hearing about, that they could relate to?
Yeah. The biggest struggle is basically just dealing with myself, and trying to lead myself and get out of my head and
Yeah.
stop overthinking things and not, I mean, I know we've talked about it, not basing my whole worth and identity on being Adam's chief of staff. That was a huge lesson for me almost 2 years ago now, when some people know this, some people don't, that when I actually left working with Adam for, it was like 30 days. Hindsight is 2020. I probably just needed, not probably, I did just need a vacation, and just needed a little bit of space, but I didn't know that. And I was so into what I was doing that I did not even think about anything else. I didn't think about myself, my health, and it's no one's fault but my own. I just couldn't even get out of my own way. Huge lesson for me, life-changing lesson for me. And now I am super conscious of us trying to pay attention to that with our other staff members, especially if they've been here for a while, to identify, are they getting burned out, or is it not really burnout and they're maybe not, it's not the right fit for the position, because there is a difference. Or are they just, not able to keep up with the work, or is it that there's literally too much work going on here? So that was really the biggest challenge for me, and for the hardest thing for me was saying it to Adam. And it was for me, it was like admitting defeat and raising the white flag and saying, I need help. Definitely the hardest thing I've had to do. Also the greatest thing that's ever happened once I said it.
Yeah.
My life has completely changed, and it's been amazing.
Yeah. So along the lines of that, I think the question for me that comes out of that is, how does Adam keep you? And that's a question that I get often. And I think that's such a great example of learning in real life, like learning as you go, learning in the process, learning that you needed a break and that more than a week was necessary. I think that just doesn't come to mind for a lot of people that that's even possible. But how does Adam keep you in his community, in his life, and in his companies?
Yeah, and he and I do talk about this all, not because of anything contentious, but just we always are talking about this with how do we keep any of our leaders in our company. And the biggest one is making sure that the vision continues to grow. Especially for me at this point in my career, like it would be so difficult for me to go work for anybody else who didn't have an extraordinarily huge vision and who wasn't a very, very, very strong leader. So he has to continue to increase his leadership lid as I continue to increase mine. And really the other thing is just giving me pretty much complete freedom and autonomy to just work on the projects that I want to work on, which has been really amazing. And I really do just get to work on the stuff that's best fit to my skill set. And that I know will continue to push the organization forward. So that's really the way. He's got to keep growing and keep pushing me to grow, and we'll just keep on growing together.
Yeah. One of that just leads me to the other thing that you guys are doing this year. It's a year-long coaching program type deal. So is that something that you're doing? You're an active participant in?
Well, kind of, a little bit. I'm more help with the content and some of the facilitation of it. But I am also participating in it to a certain degree. Like this past quarter was our focus on wealth. So I paid off all of my debt and I'm now debt-free except for my mortgage. So that was
amazing.
Great. I've started doing, the first quarter was health. So huge focus for me. I need to, that's like my biggest challenge is actually focusing on my health. So I started doing the Couch to 5K. I'm doing my first 5K in September. So that's good. And then, I've gotten to participate in a lot of this stuff over the years anyway. Like our next session is spirituality, and we're certifying everybody in transcendental meditation. I've already been certified. So
cool.
So that sort of thing. But that coaching thing is probably one of the coolest things, other than the book, maybe the coolest thing that I've gotten to work on so far. Yeah,
that definitely, I love how what you guys do crosses over between personal and professional life and how it impacts your families, your friends, everything that you're in contact with. Because there's not very many companies I know that encourage meditation or talk about getting certified and all of those things. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think you guys are your company is like this too. It's just it's all just that integration. It's that work-life integration. It's all this for us, it's one and the same.
Yeah.
And how do you just kind of fit all the pieces together and keep moving all of the different, chess pieces on the board, or whatever that analogy is. Keep moving things forward. But yeah, it all just kind of, gets all woven together. And I really love that I not only get to be a part of that, but we get to teach others how to do that too.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So thinking about meditation in that, and part of your life there, what kind of things do you do on the daily or weekly or monthly to keep yourself grounded and feeling like you're focusing more on yourself? I guess like your goal was to kind of refocus some of your energy.
Yeah, still working on that. Work is still one of the biggest pieces of my life, and I've also realized while I need other things in my life, I also need to stop apologizing for work being the number one thing in my life, because it's not the number one, but it's a super important part of my life. But what I am doing is making sure I'm getting my workouts in, focusing on my nutrition, making sure I have like 2 or 3, date nights a week or more, depending on if my husband is working or not. But really just making sure we're active, we're doing fun things, we're going kayaking. I spent last weekend at the gun range, which was the best thing I've done in a really long time. And really, we're going on vacations, like at least once a month, traveling. So just incorporating more into my life to live a more full life.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
And not letting work be the excuse why I'm not doing those things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I know what you mean too. I've been trying to think of a different way to phrase it. I was driving to work the other day and I was thinking, somebody had said to me, I forget how they phrased it. Something like, how do I spend my time outside of work, or is it just all work? And I thought, like, it's so interesting because what I'm passionate about intermingles with what we do with our mission and vision. It really truly isn't work to me. And so when people say it seems like you work all the time, I think that had something to do around social media with that. I was like, I'm not actually working. Like I'm working on my life's mission, which is to encourage and inspire people to do big things. Like it's, so I think I agree with you. I've stopped apologizing for what I'm happy doing. Because it's not a job to me. It's very much not. And I think that's the difference. And I think that's why people ask, is because they don't have that. Right. And so, yeah, they're curious and they're trying to decide, like, is this really real? Is what she's doing and feeling and all these things she feels about what her work is really valid? And so, I agree with you. I think it's an interesting perspective to come from when so many people are unhappy in their 9-to-5s and aren't like I try to encourage a lot of people to take the risk of like at least interviewing for other jobs if they're not if they feel like Monday is a day that they don't look forward to
right
at all. So I love that you guys talk about that, because I think it's really critical to happiness in general. And there's so many people that are just unhappy that I don't get why they stay where they're at.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, there's a variety of reasons that people do, but there's other things out there if people are willing to look and take the risk. And I mean, you and I both know a million different opportunities that are out there. Yeah. That people are looking for really talented individuals. So those jobs are out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, one of the other last things I wanted to ask you was, what are some networks or groups, whether it be on social media or otherwise, that you would recommend entrepreneurs or operations folks check out for more resources?
Yeah, good question. So the one that I'm a part of now that I'm finding a lot of value in is the Chief of Staff Collective. Okay. It's a membership group, and it's organized by Prime Chief of Staff, which is a Chief of Staff organization. They do coaching and training. So that's one. I'm actually going to go to their conference in DC in a couple of months, which I'm excited about. And I'm trying to think of any other ones.
I know you and Adam have spoken at a couple Behind Every Leader conferences.
Yeah. I'm going to that thing with Monique and Bonnie.
Bonnie Locraman.
Yes, I think the Ultimate Assistant that I'm going to in, I can't remember when, October. Yeah. I think they're a really great resource. I would really pay attention to anything Monique, Bonnie, and Lucy Brazier.
Oh, I haven't heard of her. Okay.
the publisher, editor. No, she's the publisher of the Executive Secretary magazine, which is essentially our version of EA. It's a British publication. It's published in London, I believe.
Okay.
She's doing some really interesting. They put on an amazing conference, and then they also are. She's doing some very interesting work about the EA and chief of staff roles, and really doing a lot of research on that and what the differences are. And then there's this whole movement going on right now, and I'll try to find that article and share it with you, about how to recategorize and kind of rename and have some basically naming conventions for the assistant roles.
I love that.
They're more standardized across the world.
That'd be huge.
And it's so different no matter where you go. And I was just talking to somebody, I think in Australia, and she's a chief of staff, and their chief of staff in that particular place is what I might consider a personal assistant. And it's just so all over the place. And so there's no standardization on titles. There's no standardization on job descriptions or on pay, which is really the big one, right? It's on huge. Salary compensation. So there's just a lot of stuff going on right now with that, which I'm super interested in.
No, I think that's really intriguing. I loved the part in the book too, where you guys talked about not only is it important for who you have now in your company, but also as an admin, as if you choose to go on and move on to somewhere else, to translate what you've done on paper. Oh my gosh. So it's incredibly difficult because like you said, the title of a job that you could be applying for maybe it's not even anything like what your title was at previous jobs, but you're totally qualified based on what you've done. That's a huge movement to try and standardize across industries.
Well, I actually appreciated that probably the past, I don't know, you might know 4 or 5 years, that in the real estate world, it's really the executive assistant role has moved more to this director of operations or operations manager role, which personally I appreciate because in the kind of world I network in, executive assistant is nowhere near what the real estate executive assistant is. Yeah. So I think the director of operations is a much more apt title for that role.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay. And if people wanted to find more information about your book, where should they go?
They should they can go to Amazon and just type in Founder and Force Multiplier and it should pop up. It's on Audible as well for all those entrepreneurs who don't read actual books. And or founderandforcemultiplier.com. Okay.
And then do you also I saw that you have a Facebook group too. Can people join that to network and?
Yep, it's just a page, so they can go there, and I try to post some additional resources. And we are actually, I was a little bit hesitant to give out the URL is because I don't know if it's quite active at the moment.
Okay.
But we will be launching in the next 30 days an actual full-on website with additional resources, webinars, training events, etc. for Founder and Force Multiplier. So there's a lot coming in the next 30 days, basically before we're all in Austin. So people can check that out, and we'll have a lot more content there.
Okay, very cool. Well, I'll definitely make note of that so people remember to go look.
Cool.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today and for chatting with us.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. I will talk to you soon.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
All right, and welcome back to Some Time with Mo. I loved that conversation with Hallie. If you guys took the time to listen, thank you so much. Please be sure to share this episode in particular with other entrepreneurs and folks that are in the operations world. I think Hallie's perspective is really valuable, and I love how she's really embraced what she talked about with the opportunities with Adam. And the fact is that he's someone that has a massive vision and has continuously provided her with opportunities and ways to grow, so that she never really has to look outside of that. And I know what she means in that if she were to go work somewhere else, she would have to find a leader who is as willing as Adam is to grow constantly and provide a bigger space with more opportunity for people that choose to work with him. So I think Hallie is a great example of someone who's really took the initiative from the very beginning to prove that she is an invaluable asset to Adam. And I spent a lot of time talking to admin and entrepreneurs about what it means to take initiative and really prove your worth and show that you are trustworthy. And Hallie, we talked about it during that interview. From the very beginning, she made it her mission to show Adam that she would do what she said she was going to do, and she would go above and beyond. And I think this is something that I've realized over the years that a lot of admin just don't innately have. It is possible to grow that within you. I think you have to be someone who's willing to really pay close attention and truly want to serve someone, serve your people, serve your company. And it takes that kind of servant leadership, I believe, to execute at such a high level. So I really loved how Hallie described how I know it's been a while since she started learning all of that. And sometimes it's hard to recall when you're 6, 7, or 8 years into the position, what it was like at the very beginning. But I also know that there are some lessons that we've learned along the way that we'll just never forget. So definitely take the time to read the book, The Founder and the Force Multiplier. I read it while I was in Maui, and it was an awesome read. It was really pretty quick, and it had some great pieces in it that I'm definitely going to take back to my team and think about how we can implement over the next year. So if you are looking for more information about this book, you can find The Founder and the Force Multiplier on Facebook. They're also on Amazon, and like Hallie mentioned, over audio as well. I definitely recommend reading it with your admin. And then take this episode, you guys, and share it, please. I have been prompting people to add reviews and let us know what you think about our podcast so far. I am really curious. Jesse's away, and sometimes I play when Jesse's away. So I'm going to experiment a little bit this week and next with the podcast and I have a little surprise for you guys. So I love feedback, and I can't always say that I've said that. I think Jesse's really taught me a lot about feedback. And I really love feedback about this podcast because I want to make sure that we are on point for our listeners and that you guys are finding this valuable. So please do take this episode and other episodes that you found to be very valuable and share them. Share them on social media. Share them with people that you believe could get something from this, because I do think that a lot of what we talk about is applicable outside the real estate industry and just in our personal lives. So I look forward to hearing from you guys over the next 2 weeks. I'm actually recording this a little bit earlier in the week, so you're probably going to get this a tad bit earlier than you're used to. And keep an eye out for a little surprise from Mo here on Finally Clicked. All right. Have a great day.